A bipartisan group of lawmakers just moments ago doubling down on their push for the federal government to release more information on UFOs.
I don't know what the full truth is, but I know we're being lied to. And the American people know that also. And so, look, the time for disclosure is now. Disclosure today, disclosure tomorrow.
And so our next call to action will be that we are meeting with the White House. We are requesting that whistleblowers receive temporary immunity or permanent immunity, and if they are able to divulge whether it is locations of craft and or advanced technologies. As you know, this is something that we are all wanting to know the truth on.
It's not about little green men or flying saucers. It's about what are we spending all these millions and possibly billions of dollars on that these idiots tell us don't exist. And then yet we turn right around in the skip and then they tell us they do exist. This is a cover-up. You all know it. We know it. We demand the answers, and dadgummit, we're going to get them.
Joining them on Capitol Hill was retired Air Force intelligence officer David Grusch. Grusch testified at the first ever hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena back in July of 2023. And a month before that, his first on-the-record interview aired right here on NewsNation. And ever since then, the Pentagon has released several previously classified batches of files and video. So senior congressional correspondent Joe Khalil's live for us there on Capitol Hill. So Joe, walk us through today's press conference.
Yeah, Nichole, so I think if there's news that came out of this, it is this. You had several lawmakers just now, along with UAP, UFO advocates, people who were pushing for more transparency around the issue, making direct appeals to President Trump and to the White House to not just continue to release more information, more videos, pictures, data, documents, but also there was a direct appeal for the president to waive NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, for people who have allegedly worked in programs within the Pentagon, whistleblowers who these lawmakers say have, in some cases, come to them privately, but have not been able to share their stories publicly. And these would be people who, for example, would have worked on programs within the Pentagon relating to this phenomenon. These videos that you're seeing here that have been released by the Pentagon, the allegations are from several of the people we heard from today that the Pentagon knows a lot more about the origins of these things, potentially has craft like what you've seen here that has been recovered, that they have been hiding from not just the public, but from Congress. And that money in the trillions, according to Congressman Jared Moskowitz, has either been sort of lost or has been spent on things that Congress has not authorized. And they want more information from these whistleblowers who they say know what has happened, what is going on, at least know more information, but have not been able to come forward, even to Congress, nervous that they could violate an NDA and be subject to criminal prosecution. So that would be, to me, the big takeaways from today. That was new that we hadn't yet heard before. A lot of this today is a sort of recitation of what we've heard in terms of the advancement that this Congress in the last few years has made on pushing for more information, more of these kinds of videos, and understanding and really trying to beat down the stigma around this. Members of Congress who talked about this stuff used to be sort of painted as crazy, as, you know, conspiracy theorists, and what their point that they're trying to make is there is actual data, there is video, there is radar from the Pentagon, not from random people who claim to have seen things, but from Air Force pilots, Navy pilots. And some of that video and evidence you are seeing right now on your screen. These are things the Pentagon cannot identify. Take a listen to just a little bit of what David Grusch, the former Air Force intelligence officer, had to say today.
Many of the president's team has been kept in the dark by high-ego, politically appointed actors, both because of incompetence and malicious intent has subverted the president's order on this issue. Furthermore, some of this foreign intelligence has not been provided to Congress despite lawful requests to the Defense Intelligence Agency last summer, and also having formally been published across the IC and analyzed by such analytical centers such as NASIC. These records belong under congressional oversight, and I believe DIA should stop obstructing Chairwoman Luna's task force and provide those documents to Congress and enter it through mandatory declassification review so the American public can see some of the foreign intelligence I had access to.
So David Grusch's big claim that he broke on NewsNation back in 2023 was that the government has for years been able to actually recover some of the craft that you've seen in these videos now. They know is real, it's on radar, but he says the government has not just recovered, tried to reverse engineer some of that. So my question today to lawmakers, which is something we've asked in different versions before, is if it is known some of the locations of those things, why can't members of Congress just go knock on the door, ask for, the fact that they have the authority, go in, see these things, try to verify some of these claims? This is the response I got today from Congressman Tim Burchett. Can you explain right now what the roadblocks are? What is preventing lawmakers, and if lawmakers want to take a stab at this, from visiting locations that have been critical to reverse engineering or other things, that the knowledge is there, but the ability to go and see them is not there?
If Congress says we're going to go to Area 51, everybody says, go to Area 51, Burchett. All I'm going to get there is a good dadgum T-shirt, all right? The moving van's already going to be there. The problem you have is that these things have been moved into private entities so that they don't have a FOIA. I could FOIA Ford Motor Company, get her, B, but doesn't mean they're gonna do anything. That's why they moved it out of the federal governments, and that's part of the roadblocks.
So members of Congress have made demands. They're asking the White House to cooperate. Congresswoman Luna says the White House is, in her words, playing ball with these members. We will see if they actually do follow up on that and if any more advancements are made in terms of more disclosure, more videos, more pictures released, and the rest.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.